Hello everyone, welcome back to AAS Publishing. Continuing the video series on ethics, and this module will be on conflicts of interest. So the referee, who's selected by the scientific editor, assumes the responsibility for evaluating the scientific content of the manuscript, its clarity, the significant new results that are being presented, and the originality of the work. So if that system's going to work at all, it's essential that the referee be free of any conflicts of interest that might arise that would influence the contents of their report or the promptness of their report. Right? Sitting on a report because you might be working on exactly the same topic, that's a conflict of interest. And so examples of things that are conflicts of interest, and these are things that the scientific editor usually considers up front before selecting the referee. But as we'll talk about, that knowledge is incomplete, and it's really on the responsibility of the referee to disclose any conflicts of interest. So one of those is to be a subject matter expert, usually at the post-PhD level. So if you don't feel you're an expert in the topic, you should say so, because that would be a conflict of interest to be reviewing a paper where you're not really an expert up on the field, okay? That you're not a recent previous co-author with the authors of the paper. That would be a conflict of interest. So scientific editors will usually look to see who that is, but we don't necessarily have complete knowledge of every paper written by everyone and who's written it with who. So it is on the referee to disclose, I just did a paper with this person 2 years ago on a related topic. Is this a conflict of interest? So you should just raise the issues if you think that there is something that might come up. Some cases it's okay, some cases it's not. Some cases it's papers in preparation that, of course, would have no knowledge about. I've got a paper with this person, we're going to submit it next week, and, okay, well, that wouldn't do. So again, disclosing that conflict of interest when you have something going on with the authors. And I suppose that also applies to things like grants, right? So maybe you haven't, it'd be a little odd, but things do happen, where you haven't done a co-author with a paper, but maybe you're a co-PI on a grant or something like that. That should be disclosed as well, because of course that's a financial tie. Yes, you haven't done any papers, but you do have a grant with this person, so that would be a clear conflict of interest. So do that one. Someone not from the same institution. Generally, again, scientific editors look at this, but people do move around. So the last recorded maybe institution A, and then in the last 3 months they've moved to institution B, which happens to be where the author is from. So you should disclose that information as well. Someone who's not known to be a mortal enemy. It's always good to know who doesn't like who. Generally, we're aware of that, where tensions lie in various communities. Tension lines review. But we don't know them all. And there are trapdoors and there are hidden sand traps. And so, if you really have an issue with one of the co-authors or had past issues with an author, you should raise that. And we'll come to that in a little bit more detail in a second. Someone who's not known to be a close friend. So again, maybe not a co-author, maybe not a grant PI, but a personal friend. So if that's the case, you should disclose that as well. We don't want to be doing the friends and family plan for peer review. That doesn't work, so you should raise that. And again, it's on you, the referee, to raise those conflicts of interest when they might arise, and just let the scientific editor make a call. So conversely, when a manuscript is submitted, authors can identify individuals who believe they are conflicted and should not serve as referees within reason, right? There certainly have been cases where people will take this and they will list off 15 to 20 people, okay? Or cases where people will list anyone from, the following 5 countries. Okay, that doesn't work either, okay? So, a limited number of depreciated reviewers is fine, almost always abided by. But long list of people like, everybody in the community or, cannot review my paper. Oh, let's see another one. You'll get theory papers where the request is that only observers can review this paper. Okay, well, that doesn't work. Conversely, just to flip it around, I've gotten them where, an observational paper will come in and nobody from these observational groups should do it, and only a theorist should look at this work. Well, that doesn't work either, unless the theorist or observer happens, to be able to do both. There are cases of that, but in general, that's not the case. And so, trying to eliminate entire communities or countries just doesn't work. So, a few is fine, a lot is not so great. And again, individuals who are invited to review a manuscript should say what any of those conflicts of interest are to the scientific editor. Excuse me, drink my nice water. Thank you very much. Okay, so scientific editors themselves must also guard against conflicts of interest. And by journal policy, they are required to disqualify themselves whenever a real or perceived conflict is presented within reason, right? I mean, the whole reason why you're a scientific editor is you have some broad-based expertise in a number of fields. You probably even do some research in a couple of those fields. And just because a paper comes down that might be in a particular topic you do research in, STARS, or it may use a particular software instrument that you're associated with, or a particular hardware facility that you're associated with, it would be very difficult to do this job if every paper that came down the pipe was in a topic that you know something about or is involved in, and you had to disqualify yourself. You couldn't do the job. Okay. But you do want to guard against obvious conflicts of interest, right? So your former postdocs, former students, co-authors of your own, etc. So we've got to be aware of that. Okay, so that's what I had to say about conflicts of interest. Just raise them up and get them resolved, and the review process can move on. So thank you very much on this one, and I'll see you on the next one. Thanks. Bye-bye.